Morning, good evening, good afternoon, Fabulites. This is Angela with a couple questions for you. What opens with Maxine Robinson not even allowing Mr. William to hold the door for her? And what closes with the detective at the figuration wall looking at stuff about Maxine's dead hubby, Ted? No! If you guessed Daytime Divas, episode 6, We Are Family, did I actually write it in my notes? Sweet. Then you're correct. That's last night's episode of Daytime Divas. Come with me and let's see how we got from opening to closing, at least from my perspective. And y'all know this show moves quick, so I can't cover every single thing, but I'm gonna do my best. Okay. So William, I told you, he can't even hold the door for Maxine Robinson. And William says, "Damn, you're cold." And she can be cold when she wants to, Miss Maxine. So then we see Nina at her baby appointment, you know, prenatal care. And Sunny Boy Sean shows up and she's surprised and she's happy. And Sean is like, well, it's my baby too, so, you know, I care. I'm going to be here. But we know they're having issues. They having tension because he found out she's a liar and a thief. And he not really all that impressed by that. And he feels like it's compromising his integrity, his mother's integrity, and everybody who's associated with the show, their integrity too. So then we see Heather at couples counseling alone. Her husband never even bothers to show up. We see Kibby with her sober coach, and they're planning a 1-year sober party for Kibby. But we know we ain't known her for a year, and we done seen her drink. We done seen her get lit, high, drunk, right? Remember that time when she partied? So Kibby doesn't think her colleagues will come. Her sober coach says, go ahead and invite them. And to her face, when she invites them, they're like, oh, of course we'll come. And then behind her back, she like, we are not coming. And then Maxine is like, we are all coming, plus the new co-host. And she says to the new co-host, you know, I didn't read your book, but let's go. They're going on the air now. And the new co-host is Eve, you know, the singer-rapper Eve, who's married to, she had a TV show at one point, a sitcom, and she's married to a wealthy guy in Europe. And she has written a book on the alpha woman. And Max says on air, oh, I read your book, but why don't you tell us all about it? Eve, whatever her character's name is, character name Eve. And then Heather is like, well, I'm not an alpha female, but you can get my book, you know, The Humble Woman. I don't know what her book is called, but it's like the opposite of a alpha male, alpha female, or something. And Eve says, you are an alpha. All of the women on this panel are alpha women. And Max is the most alpha of the alpha women. That's why she got a chapter in my book. And Max is surprised. She's like, oh yeah, I know that. I remember that. She tries to play it off. And the author offers to set Max up on a date. She talks about how alpha women have a difficult time finding partners because, you know, who can handle them and they don't think people can handle them or whatever. And then we see William, who's the doorman, who's her man. He watching this on the TV on his cell phone at the desk. And he is not happy to hear about this impending date, this setup and Maxine is not really into it either at that time. And then we see Max, she's with Sean and Nina, and she's like, so what happened at the baby appointment? And they're kind of surprised that she's all into the grandbaby thing. And she offers to get them an apartment in her building, and Sean turns it down because he says that nothing is free with Max, because Nina's like, you turning down a free apartment? What? And he like, ain't nothing free with my mama. But we know that Sean and Nina, we see then that they still have tension going between the two of them. Then we see Heather bonding and confiding with the new co-host. We didn't see her bond and confide in Anna, did we? Just the two black co-hosts so far. But, and she's getting support as she's leaving a message for her no-show at counseling hubby. And then we see Kibby, who is not 1 year sober. She's keeping a secret. And anybody who knows anything about recovery knows you can't keep, your secrets will get you, girl. You got to tell the truth. She goes to Max, and she asks if she's excited about the date. And Max is like, well, I've dated. And she's like, oh, you've been dated. And they kind of chit chat. And then we see Max waiting at the restaurant. And she tells the waiter, just a cocktail menu. This won't be long. And then he comes up and she likes his looks. And then they order the same drink at the same time. And then they chat. And now all of a sudden Max is famished. She wants the whole menu, including the dessert menu. She goes settle in and enjoy her time with this man. And then we see Max coming into the building, and the man, William, is like, did you have a good date? I watched the lunch hour. I know what's going on. And you're broadcasting your love life now? And Maxine is like, well, keep watching. We'll have a second date too, you know. So you keep... She mad at him. She's still salty with him because her son told him that he was dealing with Nina and he didn't tell her. So she feel like she mad because she like, you supposed to be loyal to me. He like, well, I have a relationship with him, I'm loyal. So anyway, her jaws are still very tight. That's why she's cold. That's why he can't even open the door for her. Kibby needs to tell her sober coach that she is not 1 year. He's given her his 1 year chip and everything, and they're planning the party. No, Kibby, tell him, confess. So then we hear about Max's date, and we see Brad, Heather's hubby, on the internet. I think this is when they're like in the dressing room, but he's being kissed by a woman, a girl. She hanging all over him, and they're about to go on air. Heather is like lit up. She's upset about it. She want to talk about it. Max is like, do you want to talk about it on air? And Heather is like, no. And Max is like, get yourself together. We're about to go on air. But she's freaking out. But anyway, they go on air. The lunch hour women are supposed to be asking questions of the new co-host, who is this about alpha females, but they're changing the questions, I guess, to personal questions about them. So Heather has the first question and she lies. I can't remember what her second question is. Her question is. And then the person who has the second question, they lie and they asking a question about them specifically. Then the third person who has a question is Nina. And Nina is asking about her and Sean, and can you regain trust if trust has been re-lost? And so they're all pretending like the viewers have written in with these questions, but it's their questions. And the alpha female woman, Eve, is like, if trust is lost, it's a wrap. You need to just move on because you can't regain trust. So then we see Heather on the phone with her hubby. She's in a cab or something, and she's lying about, oh, I'm on a date now, and he's a doctor, and I'm glad you moved on. I was worried that you hadn't moved on, but I've moved on. And, you know, oh, your girlfriend is a model. So she find out she a model. So she lying. The taxi cab driver is looking at her like, you ain't in no cab with no doctor. Lies, lies. And then we see Max saying to William again, you don't need to get the door for me. And then William is like, you're not mad at me. You're mad at Sonny Boy Sean. He thinks you don't understand things like love. And Max is like, I'm late for a party. And then we're at Kibby's sober party, and Ramona and Leon arrive, and Heather arrives with alcohol at a sober party. Alcohol, Heather. And then we see Heather is like looking at the menu like, what is this? You're serving sushi with sliders? What kind of craziness is this? And she's like all stressed out, and she gathers all the wait staff together, and she reorganizes. She's like, I think I can still salvage this. And she reorganizes it into a theme of east to west, and so different things come out at different times, and she trying to get the napkins crumpled and whatever she crimping, and she tripping. It's funny. It's funny. Okay, so then Nina, Max, and Kibby, and Max's date, and, you know, are chatting. And then a second later, it's Max and Nina alone. And Max is like, where's Sean? You didn't come together? And, you know, then Max knows something is going on. And Kibby, we realize she likes her sober coach. Because I think her question had been, what if you're into somebody who's totally not your type? When they were on the show, when they were asking the alpha female lady, Eve, the new temporary co-host, about, you know, their questions. So then we see Heather harassing Ramona and Leon to get the party up to her standards. So she got them working on, you know, reorganizing the party that they already at, that's already organized, that people are just enjoying or not enjoying, and is they at the party. Somebody else planned it, girl. Have the chillax. But she got to get it up to her part. Then we see William at the desk, at the front desk of the Max's apartment. And Detective Stagliano wants to ask questions. He wants to ask him questions about Ted and Maxine. And William is like, well, I'm just the doorman. I judge people based on their Christmas bonuses, and they were top notch. And then the detective is like, well, call me if your memory improves. And then we see Max and her date. They're at the sober party, and William calls, and Max doesn't answer. And I'm like, well, maybe William is going to turn on Max. And then we see Heather drinking, getting drunk at the sober party. And the sober coach is like, you know, this is a sobriety party. You had a rough day. You can do so much better than, you know, because it was all over the internet. So he's trying to be encouraging and friendly. You can do so much better than that guy. And then, you know, he walks away, and Heather is like, he's flirting with me. And then Heather starts giving the sober coach the eye, like, you're flirting with me, I'm flirting with you. With her silly behind. And then Max is like, you know, to her sonny boy Sean, what's up with you and Nina? And he like, I didn't know you were a Nina fan. And she like, I'm not a Nina fan, but I'm a fan of my grandchild, and y'all are the parents, so you know what's up. Then we see Max and her date are both slave driver types. Like, you know, they're at the event, and he's talking to his assistant, and he's like, I need that on my desk first thing in the morning, and blah, 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 blah. And she's like, you've got your assistant working in the middle of the night or this late at night? And he's like, yeah, that's kind of huh. And she's like, well, that's my assistant over there working, because Heather done put her to work. And I didn't think that was her personal assistant. I thought that was like a production assistant for the show. But anyway, they basically are both, you know, slave drivers and workaholics. Not slave drivers, but, you know. And then we see Kibby trying to tell the sober coach that she likes him, and Heather comes and pulls the guy away, because Heather likes him too now, because she thinks he like her. And then Ben comes up on Nina and Sonny Boy. I think Ben is Max's boyfriend. So let's just say Max's date, because I think he out the mix now, so we don't need to know his name. And compliments her on her Pulitzer winning story. But I was thinking it wasn't the same story, because it seemed like it was like up for Pulitzer or whatever. And then Sean gets mad that Nina is so smooth in her lie. He don't like it. He don't like it. Then Julian, the sober coach, is nowhere in sight when Kibby gives her speech and declares her love to him. She wants to thank him, and she's like, and I love you, but he not there. She can't nobody find him. Nina and Sean are arguing. Maybe I have made a mistake, falling in love with a woman who doesn't exist. My world has been rocked. You'd have to have a conscience to know that. That's what Sean says to Nina. And then we see Heather drunk. She downstairs. She done pulled the sober coach into some, oh, let's see if we can find this thing. She trying to get him alone. Got some silly old excuse. And she's flirting and propositioning the sober coach. And he is not into it. And she basically is going down on her knees about to give him what she calls a blowy. And Kibby walks in. And Kibby is mad. And the party goers are migrating toward where Kibby is going in on Heather. And Heather is like, this is a stupid party anyway. And Max made us come. And Kibby says to Max, you made everyone come to this party? I thought you actually cared about me. It's a stupid idea anyway. Because, and she's about to confess that she's not a year sober. And Max stops her. She says, Kibby, everyone should leave. The party is over. And then we see Max and Kibby on the roof alone. And she's like, don't waste your sobriety on this box of wine. I see why you want to be alone, but don't do it on a box of wine, girl. And then Kibby confesses that she has only 31 days, that she relapsed while Max was in the hospital. And then Max is like, well, let's just consider what happened 31 days ago, a free lapse. I never heard of free laps. But then we see Max in the car with the date, and he's like, yeah, you know, I waited an hour for you, but he's cool with it. And then the date says to the driver, why are we going this way? We shouldn't be taking the West Side Highway. We should be taking 8th Avenue or whatever. And Max is like, well, actually 8th Avenue is still going to have theater traffic, so he's going to get stuck in that. The way he was going was the best way. And then her date is like, yeah, you're right. And Max is like, you're not going to apologize to the driver? And her date is like, no, if you apologize, you lose power. And then he's like, plus, you know, I get to spend more time with you. And then, look, my hands are all doing this, but y'all can't see it. I get to spend more time with you. And then he goes in for the kiss, and Max is not receptive. And the date is like, what's up? We're so much alike. We're perfect. And Max is like, yeah, we are so much alike. Too much alike. I'm not into it. I can be an asshole and you an asshole, or whatever she said, but he's too much an asshole for her. And then, oh shoot, Max apologizes to William and they declare their love. I didn't know. That surprised me. And he pulls out the detective's card and he's like, we have a problem. And then we see the detective with the guy who did the autopsy on Max's husband Ted 20 years ago, 10 years ago, however long ago it was. And there's some kind of discrepancy, like, well, you said one thing on your audio recording, but that's not in the report. And the autopsy guy is like, well, I felt that, you know, it wasn't worth saying because we didn't want to give Max a hard time. She had just lost her husband. And the detective is like, well, she's going to get a hard time now or whatever. And then we see Heather calling, and she's canceling couples therapy this week and every week thereafter. And I hope you can find a couple that actually wants to work on their marriage together. She's so melodramatic. Then Kippy tells her sober coach that she likes him, and he says that he likes her, and he's a terrible sober coach, and he can't be her sober coach anymore, and he can't be her lover, and he leaves in defeat. He feels like he's failed as a sober coach and as a person. Then we see Nina and Sean in the hall at work at the lunch hour, and Nina is like, do I need to worry about another man knowing my secret? And Sean is like, I'm not going to blackmail you. And then it's like, if you don't know me by now, you will never, ever, ever, it's over. And Sean, he's finished with her. And then we see, and then we see people arguing right before they go on air. 2 or 3 people arguing, maybe more. And then they're on air at the lunch hour, and they're talking so sweet about each other in the sober party. And then we see the detective, and he's at his figuration wall. You know how these cops put stuff up on the wall, and they look at stuff, and they figure it out. And he's looking at stuff about Max's dead husband. And that's it. That was Daytime Divas. I give the episode a 9. I liked it. I liked the show. Be you. Be fabulous. Be fabulous you. Thank you so much for subscribing, sharing, commenting, and being here, Fabulites. Peace.